Alan, thanks for joining. Could you please introduce your healing journey with us?
Yep. How much of an introduction would you like?
Brief, probably 2 minutes.
2 minutes, blimey, that's loads. So my name's Alun Jones, and or Alan, is what I prefer. I live in London, southeast England, and I don't really describe myself as doing anything. It sounds really bizarre, but I would describe myself as just someone who bees. I bee, and that includes a number of different things. So whether that's working with clients or doing my housework or doing anything else for me, that's all just part of who I be. Because what I don't want to do in my life is to define myself. Because I find that when you define yourself, you put limits around what else is possible for you.
Absolutely.
So if it comes to how do I work with other people and help other people, which is kind of, I guess, where you're coming from here, I draw upon a lot of the Access Consciousness tools and processes to help people to remove their limitations and their limiting beliefs and all of that stuff that they've been hanging on to.
Yeah.
I will also use things like hypnotherapy, emotional freedom technique, NLP coaching. I also do Reiki teaching and Reiki healing as well. So it's kind of a mishmash of all of that, depending on what the person is comfortable with and what the energy is doing at the time. So either people will come to me or we'll do a lot of the work via Skype or telephone as well. So for me, geography is not a limitation. But what's really important to me is that I am able to be some kind of contribution to people to change their life the way they want their life to be. That's the key thing. I just want everybody to be happy.
Wonderful. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Alan, thank you, Alan, and I truly love your status updates in Facebook.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's your profile is very much similar to mine as well. I've done loads, and now I use Access Consciousness predominantly as a tool, and probably that is the reason why I wanted to have this conversation today with you. And I would like to talk about self-healing and empowerment. Does that feel light for you?
That feels totally light for me. Absolutely.
Okay. So, generally people think, at least 90% of the people think that life happens to them rather than they create life. Have you seen that with your clients as well?
I do find that I grew up in a family that has a very strong belief system that life happens to you, that there's destiny, that there's fate, that you don't really have control. It's about reacting to all the trauma and drama. So I my life has been very much about kind of not breaking out from that, but letting go of all of those belief systems myself. And then, which kind of makes sense then for when I work with people who come to me and they need help with what's going on for them. And it comes to as a surprise to a lot of people that they are the creators of their life. And the best way I find to start getting people into that process is not initially to smack them with that thought, but to say to them, whatever happens in life, what's really important is what you think about it. Because it's never a situation that causes you stress, it's your thoughts about the situation that cause your stress. So when you start to get, so when you start to get people to think about the thoughts that they're thinking, they can then start to take control about how they respond to things, and therefore become much more active and present in what they're doing in that present moment. And I love the Byron Katie quote, which is, who would you be without that thought?
Yes.
It's one that sticks through my head quite a lot when something's happening to me, and I think, okay, so what are my thoughts here Who would I be without that thought? And, when I give that to clients to use, they find it incredibly useful just to question, okay, so, and also the access consciousness question, who does that thought even belong to? So two really useful tools that I find just help people to realize that they are in control of the thoughts that they're thinking, and therefore they can become more in control of what they create and experience in their life. Because life will happen no matter what you do. It's how you think about it that will create your experience of it.
Yeah, very good tools. Byron Katie's one, I love that too. And who does it belong to? Yes, I use it all day along, and keep reminding my clients as well. Who does it belong to really, helps with physical and emotional stuff. But still, some people really struggle to buy into the idea that we can create our own lives. Because all along, if you see in Asian culture, we always look up to something or somebody to sort things out for us, guru or God or something higher than us. So when we say that we can create our life, sometimes people get offended.
Yes, absolutely, and it can be very similar in the Western world in terms of that God is an external thing, and that you should stand in fear, of an awe of God, and God is the one who decides what you should do, and God is the one who judges you, and God is the one. I think, and okay, that's fine. I am not judging that at all. What I'm saying is, for me, that doesn't feel right for me. For me, it is all about consciousness, and I am that consciousness. And that is, for many people, a huge leap and very, very different to what the majority of people in the world kind of are living, such that when you say to somebody, you are the consciousness that helps to create this planet and everything else, for them that's just too much. It's just too much. It's too bizarre. It's too strange. And so they're not prepared to be that odd.
Absolutely,
Yeah. And it is about, are you willing to be different to what has been the norm for life on this planet for such a long time?
Absolutely. That question, that brings out such a powerful energy. Are you willing to be different? When we ask this question, people say no. A lot of my clients have said no, because they all the time they try to fit in to this reality. So I asked them, let's take women's lib today. In 1700s, how was the situations for women? And it has changed altogether today. How did that happen? Somebody somewhere thought, I'm not going to be following the norms. I'm willing to be different.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is what created a whole new reality.
Yeah.
That willingness to be different, and that person inspired someone else and someone else, and that is how it gained momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's about, another way I used to explain it to people is by saying, if you look at a jigsaw puzzle, every piece is different.
Yes.
But they're all part, when you look at a jigsaw puzzle, it's a jigsaw puzzle. But then you look at it, each piece has to be different in order to play its part.
Absolutely,
and, and I think it's something else, this is a really quite bizarre one, because it's something that I experienced earlier this year, was all this thing around fear of being rejected and not fitting in. The flip side of it, of course, is that often people don't actually fear not fitting in or being rejected. What the flip side of that fear is that they will be accepted and so let me try and explain that better. If we have a view of a particular kind of people, so let's say people with money, if you have any kind of judgments or negative views about what that group of people might be, do you really want to be accepted as part of that group? Well, no. But there's another part of you that kind of wants to be part of the normal everyday life. And so you've got this flip side of, it's not really fear of being rejected from those rich people, it's fear of being accepted by them, because if you're accepted by them, then other people might reject you. Am I making sense?
That's interesting. Can you explain a little bit, a little bit further?
Yeah, because for example, as you know, I live my life. I have a preference for relationships with men, and to use the phrase kind of gay community, there was a part of me that wanted to try and fit into what that would be.
Okay.
But then there was another part of me that looks at what kind of gay society can be and absolutely reject it, because I didn't want to be seen as one of these social outcasts, these people who were, they were not normal, they were kind of effeminate, they were camp, they were, all of those things, all the negative judgments of what gay men or gay people can be like.
Right.
I didn't want to be associated with that. So for me, it wasn't really fear of being rejected by the gay community. It was fear of being accepted by it, because that way, if I was accepted as one of those, then people would reject me and ridicule me. And do you see what I mean? So for me, it was a very personal experience of, it's not fear of rejection from them, it's fear of acceptance. I don't want to be accepted by the gay community as one of them.
Interesting. Wow. Okay.
So it's often worth thinking about when you think about something that you've been, issues that you've been trying to clear all your life. I keep going over this issue like money. People think, I fear not having money. Do you? Or do you fear having money? Is it really fear of not?
What happens if you are accepted? What is the downside of it?
Well, that's to see. The thing for me, for the whole gay thing, was if I'm accepted as being one of those, then I have to behave in a way that I wouldn't necessarily kind of naturally do. I would be rejected by millions of people in the world, especially people who have a particular religious belief that says that it's wrong, and I don't want to be rejected by them.
So basically it is fitting into any box.
Yeah, when you fit into one box, you're going to be rejected by another. So you've got all of these boxes, and you're going, but if I go into that box, I can't go in that box.
Oh,
so I can't be accepted in that box, otherwise I can't get into that box. There we go. Consciousness is flowing. We'll get there in the end.
That's truly interesting. By fitting into any box, we are actually limiting ourselves.
Absolutely, yeah. How many, because we see ourselves as one little person, how can one person fit into more than one box?
Yeah.
Well, you can't really. And so we're constantly sticking our toes in all of these little boxes to try and fit in. And eventually you're going to run out of toes and fingers. So, you've got 10 fingers, 10 toes. So that's 20 boxes you can fit in. And then when you get to someone comes along with the 21st box, and you're going, oh my God, what am I going to do?
So what if we don't take in any of the labels?
Absolutely. What if we don't have to get in any of the boxes at all? And what if those boxes don't even exist? What if they're just imaginary things that we stick around things because we like to label, because we've bought into the fact that everything needs to be defined? If nothing needs to be defined, do we really need to try and step into a box? Maybe not. What else is possible?
It is just recognizing that, the box itself is an illusion.
Absolutely. And how many of those boxes that we try to live our life by are inherited from our parents and our teachers and our grandparents, and this is what you are, this is where we come from, this is your history, and these are all the things that you are. And we kind of take on that, and then when we get older, we try to do this whole self-healing thing and self-empowerment, and we get so confused, because if my mother is stepping into these boxes, and my father is stepping into slightly different boxes, and my grandparents are typically stepping into different boxes, where the hell do I fit? And one of those boxes that I think for many people is that I actually need healing. And this is quite a huge one for many people. I think, do we need healing, or do we just need to be in the space of awareness and knowing that we are always whole, we always have been whole, and all of the non-healing that we are perceiving is really an illusion, it's not real.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. That is what happened to me as well. Actually, I have been trying to heal myself for a long, long time because I strongly believed that there was something wrong with me. Okay, so I was very different from the birth, very, very different in everything I did. And I bought into the idea from the society that I was wrong. I was defective somehow. And I learned all these healing techniques to fix myself. So what used to happen was I get well a little bit and then I slip back. It was like an upward spiral all the time. Okay. And yes, these techniques I used to learn worked wonderfully on others. I used to facilitate healing, coaching and everything. Used to work wonderfully for everybody else. And for me, there was always a limitation. Okay, and then I found Access. Access said there is nothing wrong with you.
Absolutely, and I think, if you think about what consciousness says to you, this is what's so funny, is we're kind of going, I must heal this, I must heal this, I must fix this, I must mend this, and consciousness is going, but there's nothing wrong with you.
Absolutely.
So every time you're kind of doing these healing techniques, which kind of will help to release some of the limitations and blocks, because that's what they do. The heart of it really is, I think, that when we try to heal that which is not broken, consciousness is going, but no, I love you for the way you are.
Absolutely,
that doesn't need healing.
Exactly, that is what happens. I was just investing all my energy in fixing myself, which was totally an illusion. There wasn't anything to fix. And that is why, nothing was working consistently for me. No. And when I found Access Consciousness, it was such a freedom. Oh, well, okay, there is nothing to fix. What can I do now? What else is possible?
Yeah.
So that is the empowerment.
And I think, one of the other big Access Consciousness tools that really helps with this is the whole thing around interesting point of view.
Yeah.
When we say, I am broken, that's an interesting point of view, because, there are people in the world who would look at me as a man who has lives with another man and say that I am broken, I am, I need fixing and all of that kind of stuff, because that's their point of view. Then there are other people in the world who would say, no, you don't. There are other people in the world who don't even have that point of view. They have something completely different. Who's right?
Absolutely.
When it comes to having money, some people would say, oh, rich people are evil and they're blah, 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 blah. And that's just an interesting point of view, because there are other people. If you look at, perhaps Richard Branson or, some of those celebrities who do the comic relief in England to kind of raise money for charity, would you say that they're evil? Well, probably not, no. But they're just as wealthy. So it's just an interesting point of view. And our point of view creates our reality. And if you have the point of view that people who have money are evil, then potentially what you're going to be doing is looking for what you consider to be evil when you look at other people with money, and you're going to refuse having money.
I agree. And if you say, the amount of energy we lock into aligning and agreeing or resisting and reacting to anything,
no,
it is huge. So what if everything can be just an interesting point of view?
Absolutely, but then what springs to mind is, and I can hear my mother saying this in the background. You can't sit on the fence. You have to go one way or the other. You have to go one way or the other. Really?
And one more belief is that unless you have polarity, there can't be any change.
Yes, absolutely.
So unless there is a judgment, unless there is a necessity, there can't be any change. So what if you choose to change something without any judgment, just for the joy of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think lots of thoughts coming into my head shouting, pick me, but the one that that really springs to mind at the moment is as well, one other thing that really I think can limit people is everything has to be balanced. Everything is in balance. And you think, okay, well, if you take that literally, which is what it means, good has to be balanced with evil.
Yeah.
And does there really need to be a balance of good and evil in the world, or can everything just be fun?
Interesting point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just, another point of view. And I think this whole thing around it has to be one way or the other, well, if you're in the middle of space, kind of outer space, which way is up and which way is down? Do we ever really know which direction is which? And one direction is just as good as any. So is there polarity in space? Don't know.
Yeah.
I'll let you know when I get there.
Last week when I asked, what and who would you be without any necessities in the world? I mean, necessities in your life. A lot of people freaked out.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there is no necessity, what do I do?
Yeah.
There is no doing.
Absolutely, and and the big thing about that as well is it's related for me. For the question is, do you? And this is a bit of one of those mind-frying questions. Do you feel the need to need something before you allow yourself to ask for it and receive it?
Yes. Shall we pop in for this?
And it does fry the mind when you think, okay, so at the moment, I in order to eat, I need to eat. In order to allow myself to receive money, I need to receive money. So I need to create all this debt so that I can receive money, or past expenditure, whatever you. So how often?
That brings up. Let's destroy and uncreate.
Pot and pockums, best, good, bad, right, wrong, pot, all nine, shorts, boys, and beyond.
Wow.
Because I think, what if we don't need something to have it? What if we could just choose it because it's fun, because it's exciting? And another part of this for me is, if consciousness is everything and everything is created the minute you think about it, does the receiving come before the asking? So if you receive the thought and then you ask for it, because you're then, when you're asking for it, you're putting yourself in vibrational alignment with what it is that's kind of already there. And everything that doesn't allow that, let's destroy it and create it all.
Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. This is going really interesting. And something else popped into my head. People often ask me in boss class, if you don't have any judgment and if you don't have any point of view on anything, life would be boring. What do you say about it?
Absolutely, and that in itself is kind of pushing buttons in me, even though I completely agree with it. I think it's about, okay, so let's look at it from another perspective. Rather than aligning and agreeing or having judgments or whatever, what if you just had preferences for what feels light for you at that particular time?
Yeah.
So if you ask a question, so rather than just making the conclusion that life would be, because that's a conclusion, life would be boring if I didn't have judgments and preferences.
And so this is also to do with misidentification of what is joy is, what peace is.
Absolutely. So yeah, the whole misconception and misunderstanding, misapplication of particular words. So,
without drama and trauma, we think life is boring. What if it is joyful? Yeah,
so what is excitement? Does excitement have to mean that you are, desperately trying to pay off past expenditure? Does excitement mean, does it have to mean that you go through a messy divorce or a difficult relationship or a massive illness? You think, okay, so what else could be exciting for me that is a contribution to me and to the world? And what could I choose right now that would be fun for me that that would not be boring, that would be exciting? What could I choose that's fun for me and a contribution for me and would be a contribution for the world that is also fun and exciting? And what else is possible? And what am I capable of actualizing and instituting as excitement in my life that is not trauma and drama, but is excitement and fun and expansiveness and spaciousness and new experiences.
How does it get any better than this?
Yeah, absolutely. And I find that, you know, when one of the, you know, the whole expand out thing, when I'm feeling contracted by something, when it comes to I need something in order to experience it, I can just expand out and say, well, I don't need to need anything because I am expanded out to the whole of consciousness.
Wow.
So which part of consciousness would I like to explore and experience now?
That is a very good question.
They just flow when you're in it, and if you asked me to repeat everything we've said so far, I wouldn't have a clue.
You know, so incidentally, day before yesterday, I think, I had sent out a newsletter to my subscribers on how to get unstuck.
Right.
Okay, because lots of people are reporting they're feeling stuck in something or other. It may be something to do with supermoon. I don't know whether it is just an interesting point of view. But lots of my clients and friends are reporting that they feel very stuck and unable to get out, and they feel the heaviness is bigger than themselves. So I had sent out a newsletter on how to get unstuck. And incidentally, yesterday you had posted something about, you know, getting yourself unstuck.
Yeah.
One thing I really liked about that message was, you know, sometimes if you are not able to get out of that feeling, probably you would like to feel it.
Yeah.
Would you like to expand that a little bit here? It will be really useful for the listeners.
If I can tap back into that energy, I will try. So, because when I write those things, they just kind of go. So, so this is me saying that sometimes you think you want to feel something, or you should be feeling something. Is that what I said?
It was like, you know, if you are unable to get out of feeling something, probably in deeper level, you may like to feel that. So why don't you allow yourself to feel that?
Right. I'm tapping back into it now, and I understand that. So basically it was when you wake up, and yes, it was, for me, it was a bit like you wake up in a space of, there are a couple of things I think going on here. First of all, when you wake up and you're feeling not particularly, you know, happy, you're feeling a bit blur, perhaps the first question that I would ask myself is, what am I actually feeling here? And I think that what a lot of people will do is they immediately try to force that feeling away as if it's a bad thing, and they judge it. They judge themselves for having it, rather than just standing up and going, okay, do you know what, I'm going to receive this feeling, because it may well be a couple of things. It may well be the change that you have asked for turning up in a different way that makes you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it can also be something that you've locked away in your body, literally just coming up to be released. You know, because if you're removing all of these barriers and energetic blocks and beliefs, stuff is going to float to the surface. But, you know, here's the thing, you don't need to do anything with it. You can just look at it and go, well, that's interesting. It's a bit like the weather. If you look out the window, and yeah, you see the weather it's raining and it's horrible. You know, what some people would describe as horrible outside.
Yeah,
that's an interesting point of view.
Yeah, this is what I think in Access we call perceiving instead of feeling.
Yeah.
If we can get out of feeling, if we just perceive the energy.
Yeah. If you just notice it and just go, oh, that's really interesting. You know, I've woken up feeling this way. Thank you. You know, I say to it, thank you for that. Thank you for coming up for me. Is there an awareness here that would contribute to me? If the answer is no, is that, okay, well, what would it take for me to let this go?
Have
Do I
you
need
heard
to do anything with this?
Yeah, that's good. And have you heard of Sedona Method, Alan?
Have I heard of?
Sedona Method?
The Sedona Method. I have heard of it, but I haven't used it.
Yeah, it's really cool. You know, this is to welcome the feeling.
Right.
Just being with it. It starts like, you know, just for this moment.
Yeah.
And you just go with the feeling. You know,
Absolutely.
not do anything about the feeling.
Yeah, just allow yourself to feel it.
Yeah, just let the feeling be there. And then you just welcome it.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, because if the thing is, if consciousness is everything,
yeah,
consciousness must also be all of those feelings we have described and concluded are crappy, and you know, so what if they're not? What if they're just, you know, as you said, you can just sit with it and be with it. And I find that when I do that, they go a lot more quickly, they dissipate more quickly than were I to try and dissolve it. So rather than concluding, oh, I have to get rid of this,
yes,
which is kind of what I was trying to say yesterday, rather than trying to get rid of it, just go, okay, so let me just be with this for a minute.
yeah.
And for this 10 seconds, I'm going to choose to be this energy. It goes, you know what, I'm really grateful that I can be this energy now, because in 10 seconds time, or even not even 10 seconds, in 2 seconds even if I wanted to, I could choose something else. I don't have to choose this forever. I can go, okay, so for this 10 seconds, I'm going to choose to be with this energy. And I really love that I can choose to feel this, because in the next 10 seconds, I know that I can choose something else that feels so even more fantastic for me. And as I feel that, I can be grateful that I'm moving what I would call further up the vibrational scale. So this is not, see, I don't really resonate with negative and positive. What I resonate with is higher vibrational emotions and responses and feelings to higher vibration ones. Doesn't say they're better or worse, they're just a different vibration, in the same way that infrared light is a very different vibration to ultraviolet light. They're different vibrations, but neither, you know, they serve their purpose. So when you're feeling what I would call a lower vibration energy like anger or resentment or fear, often those are illusions anyway, but when you're feeling in those spaces, they're not negative, they're just, okay, so how can I benefit from feeling this? And that's another big thing for me, is when you're feeling something, something happens to you that makes you, or you know, you choose to feel stressed or upset about it, a question I love to ask myself is, how can this benefit me? How can I take advantage of this feeling?
Absolutely, that is one vibrational changer I often use. Yeah. How can I use this to my advantage? Anything.
Yeah. Because that's really self-empowering, because you're then looking at it going, okay, this has happened, but now me empowering myself to go, so how can I make this, you know, what can I do differently now, or how can this contribute to my life? Because it can make me go, okay, well, that's given me an awareness that when I do that, this person is going to react in that way. That's really interesting. How fun.
Really interesting.
But I don't have to do it that way anymore.
Yeah. So time is almost up. I would like to ask one last question, if it is okay with you.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Right. And do you, what is your opinion about self-healing? Can anybody heal themselves without any external help?
My answer to that is yes, but I think so yes, I think anybody can, because it's a space of awareness that you don't necessarily need healing. However, what I love about working with other people and helping other people and interacting with other people is that, huge subject. I think that sometimes you talking through your stuff with somebody else to work it through can actually help them to work through their stuff, because they're not yet in a space of knowing that they can do it themselves. So we're touching on something big here, and this feels so expansive for me, so I'm going to go with it again. What if, by you working with other people to deal with your stuff, is actually a contribution to them to help them deal with their stuff?
Wow.
Ooh, that's really exciting. That's given me goosebumps. That's just amazing, which is why it's really good to work with not necessarily just a therapist or whatever you want to call them, but this is about you contributing to them by working through your own stuff.
That's really interesting, Alan, because I do lots of telecalls, and every time, that is what I find, after the telecall, my life becomes better in that area. Yesterday we did something called the Gorgeous You call. And all since yesterday, and this morning, anytime I look at the mirror, I think, oh wow, I'm gorgeous.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's and you are gorgeous. I've seen your photographs on Facebook. So I think that, you know, that's absolutely it, isn't it? And how much of a contribution is that when you go onto one of those telecalls or to a conference or a training or something and you're going, okay, I'm going to go here and I am going for me, but I know that by going for me to deal with my stuff, is most definitely, no doubt whatsoever, going to help somebody else with theirs. Even if nobody says anything, quite often I find that one question that somebody asks works for so many people in the room, and so many people sitting there going, that's exactly what I wanted to hear, that's exactly what I needed. So I think definitely, yes, people can work on it on their own, but just think how much more of a contribution it can be to the world and to other people if you work with somebody else or, you know, interact with somebody else as you both work through your stuff. Because when two people meet, it's not 1 + 1, it's, you know, consciousness meeting itself. It's infinity meeting infinity, which is a bit of a paradox, but it, you know, it exponentializes the healing that you can be. Wow.
That is wonderful insight, Alan. Wonderful insight. You know, I had this as well. I had the same point of view like you, and that is why I opened up the group called Healing Buddies in Facebook. You know, so that we can work with each other and, you know, expand further.
Absolutely, it's kind of like,
that is so cool.
It is.
Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you for asking for me to be a part of it. It's such an honor. And
your insights are wonderful, and please keep contributing in Twitter or Facebook so that a lot of people can benefit.
Absolutely.
Like me. Thank you, Alan.
You're so welcome. Have a lovely day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.